So hi, hello. It's the end of the year, virtually the new year. So happy new year to everyone. Maybe apart from those Freemasons who are involved in some horrific abuse. But apart from that, happy new year to everyone else. Of course, the Freemasons I'm referring to are the ones currently, I'd say sitting outside my home, but I don't know if they're actually there. It's possible that they're in the lodge at this time, but they've got their what can I say? I often call them lackeys. I don't know what to call them really. Their brethren, their fellow Masons, or their anyway. They've got these people outside anyway, just sitting there. Not sure why really. It's a great mystery. It's a great mystery, isn't it? Why? How on earth this MI5 counter-terror unit, who I should know nothing about, follow me about absolutely everywhere. It's a great mystery, isn't it? One of the greatest mysteries, I think, is like when I go to work and kind of they follow me there, and then I just park up and I walk straight into a school and spend all day teaching, and then when I come out they follow me back home. It's just so strange, isn't it? It's a great mystery, it makes no sense. And as I said, you know, it's up there on a par with like who built the pyramids, you know, what's the purpose of Stonehenge, or, you know, what's the purpose of life? And it's this one as well, what are these people actually doing, following me? And we all know they don't actually follow me. They do a lot more than that, which is rather sinister, you have to say. And I should really, if you like, preface this video by saying, yeah, if anything happens to me in a road accident, if you find out I'm suddenly being involved in this road accident, or I've died in a car crash, good chance it's probably not an accident as well. So if you check out December's footage, you'll see what they were up to in December. But the whole year is up there now on the website, and you can have a look at their completely psychopathic antics, if you like, on the motorways as well. The biography of 2024 as well it's coming along, and really just, you know, as you read it, you kind of like, it just hits you as you see this footage. I mean, have a look at the footage of these people driving around like complete maniacs, and I've said before, it's a miracle they haven't killed anyone. And just the complete disregard for life, isn't it? You know, because it's one thing if you want to take me out, but the amount of people they're endangering as they whiz up and down these motorways, it's kind of incredible. But this is what you're dealing with, essentially. You're dealing with, put out your head that they're an MI5 counter-terror unit. That makes no sense at all. And really what you're dealing with are Freemasons, and these are people who are heavily involved in the cult. So I've seen just by their work how they torture, and I can only assume that they learn such things within that cult. And I don't know whether I should call it like satanic or you know, demonic, Luciferian. I don't know what the right word is, but I can tell you it's pretty evil. That's all I can say. So I don't know what this cult is that they're involved in. I don't know where their Masonic lodge is, or what degree they are at, or what positions they hold in their Masonic lodge. But all I can do is really tell you what they showed me, and again, why they're going to so much effort as well. Again, if you want to get an idea of their psychopathy and their absolute, how could I say, madness, check out the footage. There's enough of it there of 2024. You can go back previous years as well, see if you can get through it, and you know, you'll get a picture of the minds of these people, if you like, who are so far removed from justice, considering justice is a noble profession, right? You know, justice is like synonymous with truth and honesty. They're so far removed from that, it's laughable. So these people, the club is deeply ingrained in them, the cult is deeply ingrained in them. All their methods of work are indeed from the cult, from the fabrication of evidence to sleep deprivation, to torture, to actually just to almost outright murder, you have to say. And again, look at the footage of them driving around like maniacs on the motorway, and consider how long they've been doing this. Life is really cheap to these people. Life is really, really cheap. But this is, again, what I'm dealing with. And again, this is telling us something about the deeper levels of Freemasonry. Anyway, so yeah, it's been good actually to have a break, because normally, so I'm on holiday when I go to work, you know, and again, you'll see the footage, you'll see what they do and how they operate. You have the morning shift and the afternoon shift. They have an hour in the morning where they can harass me, an hour after work when I drive home where they can harass me, or they can try to murder me if you like. Check out the footage. I know it sounds dramatic, but honestly, check it out. And this is their life. This is the life of this apparently MI5 counter-terror unit. Their life revolves around these two moments in time, and it's been like this for a number of years. And this is all they live for. They live for moments in the morning where they try to harass me, torture me, and in the afternoon. And that's it. This is what their life has become. Now, clearly, they're not doing it, because of justice or terrorism or anything remotely related to anything criminal. Because, like I said, I just park up and walk into a school and spend all day teaching. And there's 100 other anomalies as well. None of this really makes sense. So you've got to think, if you really want to understand this and understand their behavior, you're going to have to really understand Freemasonry, and not the Freemasonry which is on the outside, which is the public face where everyone is, you have these men wearing aprons and they're kind of like smiling and they look happy. Not that kind of Freemasonry, which is apparently charitable, but the one that is hidden from people, and the one that I was shown by these people. And this is a dark, dark cult. And these people are into some dark, dark shit. I'll say that much. Excuse my language, but it's true. And that's why they're there now. Once you start to grasp this and start to understand this, their behavior makes a little bit more sense. Though you'll never truly understand people like this and the things that they are into. You can only speculate as to what goes on inside those lodges, the ceremonies they do and how they brainwash the people. Like any cult, these people are brainwashed. And people have said as well, by the time you get to the 33rd degree, by that time, you're gone. And it goes on after the 33rd degree. It just keeps going on and on and on. Anyway, so yeah, it's nice just to talk without being harassed as well. I've been doing some reading. Interesting things. These people can do all sorts of things. They showed me about the mind, and I talk a lot about this, not just telepathy, but a lot of other stuff. And as I've said, they spent 3 months, August, September, October, really even November, where they were telepathically communicating with me. I've had conversation telepathically with these people, and again, understand it sounds incredulous, because until it happened, I had no idea such things were possible. But again, do the research. There are books out there. In fact, the scientific evidence is out there. Everything is out there, and it is actually true. And that is really, really what happened. And that's what they learn in the higher degrees, I guess, of Freemasonry. But you're taught really all these psychic things, how to use your mind. The great tragedy is that we all have that ability, and it's hidden from every single one of us. It's pretty much the way I look at a crime against humanity, because we all have this. We should all be using our psychic gifts. It's all natural. It's in every single individual. but it's hidden from us, but it's taught to those people like these MI5 Freemasons outside who I met. And again, it goes a long way to explaining their constant persecution of me, an English teacher and a writer, and also their complete insanity and madness as well. Because you have to remember, I'm not supposed to know these things, you know, I'm not supposed to know that people can, that in Freemasonry they learn how to telepathically communicate and they learn all these psychic things. I shouldn't know this, of course, because I'm not in the club. And these people shouldn't have shown me. And what they've done is they've broken their oaths. And if you check out these oaths that they have to swear, and they're pretty horrific. Check out the penalties. I mean, the penalties of the first degree, entered apprentice, what is it? Having your throat slit. And that's the sign as well. It's the hand across the throat. The second degree, I can't remember, having your heart torn out or something. And again, that's the sign. The third degree is having your body cut in two. And that's the sign. So the signs allude to the penalties, just to remind people, you better keep your mouth shut. And so much of that ritual is about ensuring their members keep their mouths shut and don't tell people on the outside like me what they do and what they learn. I was looking at the 33rd degree the other day. The penalty for the 33rd degree is having your tongue cut out. And on top of that, you have to pay the penalties for the previous 32 degrees. So as well as cutting your tongue out, they're going to slit your throat, pull your heart out, they're going to cut you in two, burn your bowels, or whatever it is they do. And of course, maybe they're talking figuratively, I don't really know. So maybe they're not talking literally, but the intent is there. You know, there's no other club in the world that has oaths like this. Any other club that had an oath like this would be illegal and banned, but not Freemasonry. So the oaths are there for a reason. And I guess Freemasonry is permitted to exist for a reason as well, because you'll be amazed when you find out who's a member. It seems to be like pretty much anyone who's a member of this mad cult. You don't get certain jobs unless you're a Freemason, you know, and whether you want to apply that to the entertainment industry or whether, you know, politics, I don't really know. But certainly when you look at this MI5 outfit that I've met, these Freemasons, there's no way they would be doing this job if they weren't Freemasons. In fact, it seems to be a requisite of getting the job. So anyway, they showed me a lot of things then regarding the mind and all these psychic things as well. And it's been interesting as well because I've been reading some stuff as well. There's an interesting book actually I've got here. This is John C. Lilly. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Center of the Cyclone, and the guy spent a long time researching consciousness. He spent years and years. He was paid. He was a government scientist. All his research was paid for, if you like. So he was paid to take LSD and then kind of write about his trips. But something he did, interestingly enough, is he created a tank. And he created this sensory deprivation tank, something like that, which had water, and he would go inside and he would actually just lie in this tank, and it removes all your senses. And that's what you do, and then essentially as you kind of, you know, your bodily senses kind of fade away, you get more in tune with your mind, your soul. And he did loads of experiments like this, which he documented. And they're quite interesting. He found lots of different levels of consciousness. And actually, there are all these things that you can do with your mind. It was interesting because one of the things I've talked about as well is it's not just telepathy, but this guy who I met, who I call Richard, I don't know his real name, Cockney Richard as I call him, but something he said as we were having this telepathic communication, and I said, how can you do this? And he said, it's just something I can do, I can lock on to people. And so he used this phrase, I can lock on to people. And I've written a book, in fact, trying to simplify it and what you can do, but looking on, essentially you get into someone's mind. So it's like you're inside their head and you can see everything they can see. You can, whatever they're looking at, that's what you'll see. You see it in your mind, but it's like being in their mind. You can hear their thoughts as well. It's literally like being in someone's head. You can also sense their feelings as well, whether they're happy or sad, angry, hungry, whatever. You can sense it all as well. And it's interesting because it's all done with the mind. There's no technology here or anything. This is the power of consciousness, and this is what we have the ability to do as human beings. We are more than just this physical body. And again, it's tragic that it's hidden from you, but this is something they learn in the club. And there's a lot more to it. They could do a lot more things as well. But I was interested because also John C. Lillian, in his book Hair, he also had this experience, and he actually describes what happens when he locks onto someone. So he had this experience as well, which I think he was in his tank. And he talks about with, I'll just read this little bit here. It says, suddenly, even though my eyes were closed, I was looking into a room filled with golden light. I saw a huge chandelier, an immensely beautiful chandelier hanging from the ceiling. I was filled with warm, loving feelings and a sense of childish delight and wonder at the beauty of the chandelier in this golden room. I felt the way I had in childhood at the prospect of seeing a palace, of being in a palace like those recounted in fairy stories. The chandelier has prismatic crystal pieces, hundreds of them hanging around the lights in the chandelier. The light being emitted was a soft golden glow. So basically that's what he could see. He was in his tank, really in tune with his mind, and he was having these kind of, I guess you could say, visions in his mind. Obviously his eyes were closed and he could see all these things about the chandelier. And he says, after the experiment was over, I called up California and asked my former guide what had happened to her at 3 p.m. So instinctively, he kind of knows who this is. This is a friend of his or a colleague. He calls her former guide, so someone who helped him. She said, at 5 minutes to 3, I looked at the clock and realised that I had to go and pick up the children from school. I started down the stairs and looked at the chandelier hanging from the ceiling in the stairwell. I was overcome with a sense of immense beauty, and took a childish delight in admiring it and seeing its fabulous palace-like quality. I skipped on down the stairs, watching it as I went, admiring it, and thoroughly enjoying the experience. So essentially, he had seen everything that she had seen. And not only had he seen it, he had experienced her emotions and how she felt, and her thoughts as well. He says, I then told her what happened at the same time to me at a distance of 1,200 miles away. And that's interesting, isn't it? They're 1,200 miles apart, because I was having telepathic communication with Richard, and we weren't even in the same country. That's how mental it is. And again, if you look at quantum entanglement, it's incredible what you can do with your mind. But this is what happened to him. They're 1,200 miles apart. They're nowhere near each other. And yet he could see exactly into her mind. He says, just finally, these two experiences in mental telepathy with my guide showed me one thing, and that is somehow or other I got into the mind of the other person involved and shared her state. In both cases, her particular mood and emotion was transmitted to me as if I were her, the chandelier as a direct experience of my own. Interesting, really, isn't it? It's interesting. He basically got into her head, and as he said, it was like being her. I shared her state. I shared her emotion. I could see what she was looking at, and all her other senses, but I could feel them. So it was incredible. He didn't go into detail, which was a great shame. He wrote a lot about consciousness and all these other things you can do with your mind, but he didn't really go into that aspect of telepathy, because telepathy is much deeper. It's not just two people having a conversation with their thoughts. It goes a lot deeper than that, as you can see as well. So that was an interesting book. And also, if you check out, I was reading a blog of a woman called Anneke Lukas, and if you look at her blog as well, she wrote an interesting article where this woman was taken by the cult as a child, unfortunately sold into the cult. Horrific experiences that she had, and after a long time she's talking out about it. But there was something with this blog again, because she, as a child, these people who are not nice people, which is one way of putting it, but they're in the cult, and what they did to her is actually they put her into a tank as well, and they taught her going into this tank to kind of cut off her bodily functions, if you like. So very similar to John C. Lilly. And they would get her to, I don't know if it's meditate, but they brought out her psychic abilities this way. It's a lot darker than John C. Lilly, because this is really the dark side of Freemasonry. I don't know what to call it, whether it's satanic or demonic, but this is the side where they do all these really horrific rituals. And again, it's telling you why our friends, Cockney Richard, Cockney Jane, these people I know are going to such extraordinary length to persecute and hound and torture and pretty much just kill me, because it really is dark. It's beyond most people's comprehension. I mean, check out Anneke Lukas. There are others who have been talking out about it. It really does happen. Anyway, this is what she said, talking of the tank. Once inside the tank, forced to relax and told to focus on the image of that man. She'd been shown a photograph of a man, of the man I had seen in the picture. More information started to filter through. The previous week's training had sharpened my observation, intuitive knowing. And she was able to tell all these things while she was in the tank. I was ordered to focus deeper and tune into that fear of his. I had to insert my own consciousness into his, as though I were right with him. No, even closer, really inside his body and mind. I didn't think it was possible, but this was the program's theta training to stop thinking and open and use psychic gifts. Okay, so again, really interesting as well. They taught her how to get into someone's mind. And this is the cult. Now, this is much closer to what Richard is involved in. But anyway, this is what she says. This amalgamation of psychopaths and their minions who seek in their infantile need to gain maximum control over everything, including inside their own ranks and, of course, externally. So these people, they're incredibly obsessed with control, power and control. I would say probably power, torture and control. These are three tenets which define these people. And again, if you look at our friends, the ones I met, power, torture and control, it really sums them up. But they have this real need for power. Woman, a video, her name was Poppy Joy. I was watching some of her video and she was recalling her horrific experiences of Freemasonry and what they did to her. And as she said, the rituals, it was about submission. They make you submit. They want you to submit. They want you to give over to them. It's about power and control. They need to control people to shut them up. And again, this is really what Anneke, Lukas has just said as well, to gain maximum control over everything, including their own ranks, and of course externally. They are incredibly skilled at attacking a person or a group by means that most of us would never guess at. Who would think this? Who would have thought? Because I've said before, actually, you don't need all this surveillance at all, because you can just lock on to someone, get inside their mind, and you'll know exactly what they're doing, where they are, what they're thinking. But yeah, most of us would never guess at it. I would never guess. I had no idea until I met these MI5 Freemasons. Infiltrating, she says, gathering information, create division and ultimately destruction from in. And as she says here, with the network as the guiding hand, that is never even suspected. They do things all the time where they can avoid detection. Last line, who would ever dream that their thoughts might not even be their own? And again, that's really interesting, because what I was showing, you can really manipulate people and their thoughts. You can put thoughts into their mind. You can have thoughts from other people. So, you might think you're hearing someone else, but actually it's just these people. The level of manipulation is incredible. And you need to know the workings of the mind. You're thinking, well, how do they do this? You've got to understand the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind, because it's really your subconscious that does all of this. It's your subconscious mind that they really manipulate. A really good book as well, The Law of Psychic Phenomena as well. If you look at this book, it's quite old, but I don't remember who wrote it. Thomas Hudson. If you look at this guy, Thomas Hudson, it's quite an old book, but he wrote a brilliant analysis of the human mind, of the conscious and the subconscious mind, of the objective, subjective, as he calls it. And it's all there. Actually, it's all there. He knew, I don't know, he knew a lot, really, but again, a lot of it was his research. And check it out. So yeah, that was quite interesting. It was quite interesting reading all that, because I've been saying for a long time, this is what they did. They lock on to people. You can get into someone's mind. It's not just a case of telepathic communication. And of course, once you can do that, once you can lock on to someone, and you can actually then start to get into their mind, you can manipulate them in all sorts of ways as well. So I talked about in my book as well, I talked about, did I talk about it? I talked about dreams as well. I didn't actually talk about it, but that's something which will probably go into the new book, just having a look. Because again, you can manipulate. If you can manipulate someone when they're awake, which is what they do, then of course when someone's asleep, you can manipulate them as well. You can manipulate their mind, and that's what they showed me. The level of manipulation is incredible. So, when someone is actually fast asleep in a dark sleep, you can have a conversation. If you've locked on, you can have a conversation with their subconscious mind, and they'll sleep through it. It's incredible, isn't it? They'll sleep through it, and you can have a conversation with them, and they'll wake up and won't even be aware. So I experienced this. Firsthand with Richard and the woman called Alice. These two people. Quite incredible. But that's stuff for another book, and a lot of this is hard to get your head around, and I understand that. It's taken me years to kind of understand this and understand consciousness, the power of the mind. There's a lot of books. The Kybalion's a good one. It's worth reading. The 7 Hermetic Principles. And the first principle is the law of mentalism. So in other words, the universe is a mental construct. Everything is mind. And that's what they say. Mind is all is mind. And it's true, and we're all connected. And once you understand that, you realize there's little that you can do. Also, I've been listening to some audiobooks from Neville Goddard. It's worth reading out So it's worth checking out this guy again. He talks a lot about the subconscious mind. I was listening yesterday and he said the same thing. Meditate, fall into a sleep, just kind of meditate and cut yourself off from your bodily senses. And then you're more in tune with your mind and, use visualization, use your imagination. There's all sorts of things he was talking about as well, where you can achieve all these things. And again, he didn't talk about telepathy or locking on, but he did talk a lot about the power of the mind, as a lot of people have done. And of course, these people are deeply, deeply dark. So they use things in a manipulative way. How they use things are not for good. You can use things for good or for evil if you like, and they use things in a very evil way. They showed me what they do to people, and I've experienced it firsthand. I've seen what they've done to me, and yet I have it, fairly lightly, I should say, because these people are involved in all sorts of ritualistic stuff, which is horrific. Another book, again, in trying to understand these people, I was reading through this book as well. Persuasions of the Witchcraft, which is written by Cambridge University scholar, I could say, I'm not really sure. Cover looks a bit dark. It's actually not that dark. This book is actually quite boring in a lot of parts. I haven't really read it. I've been flicking through it. It's about witchcraft as well. But again, I was curious to see the links between like this and Freemasonry, if you like. And there are a lot of common kind of links as well. These people are into, I don't know what to call it, sorcery or black magic. I don't know what it is, but it's demonic. And again, look at the rituals that they're involved in. You can look at Mark Ryan, who have written about this has caused a great deal of upset to the people outside because it involves things about their satanic ceremonies. But there are other people out there as well. And again, this is what these people are caught up in. So as well as using all this stuff really with the mind being taught all these psychic things as well, it's mixed up with this really dark energy and these really, really dark rituals. I don't know whether I should call it Satanism or whether it's Luciferianism or whether it's just demonic. I don't know what name to give it. All I know is that it's really sick, and these people are really sick, and I don't mean that in it's not just a flippant comment saying, trying to insult them. I'm talking literally, they're mentally ill. And I really mean that. And when you look at the rituals they do in their club, to me, it's a form of mental illness. But these people think it's normal. They think it's okay to kind of take kids and do all these things to them. For them, it's okay. They're okay with that. And it's like with the whole torture thing, which I experience every day, more or less. They're okay with it. It's okay, no problems, it's fine. And like I said, it's a form of mental illness. And you've got to remember, these people are part of a cult. They are not... and any cult brainwashes its members, right? They go through all these ceremonies and all these rituals, and they're brainwashed. And they're brainwashed with this dark ideology in that club, where they seem to somehow justify everything, no matter how evil it is. There's a 5-hour video on YouTube by a guy, Altian Child, who's a former Freemason. He talks about his time in Freemasonry and some of the things he learned, and it is pretty horrific. Some stuff he didn't talk about, but he again talks about this whole thing of good and evil. And if you look at Freemasonry, you'll notice the black and white checkered floorboard, which is symbolic of the good and evil, and that's what they believe life is made up of. Life is made up of both the dark and the good. And because this is nature, it's fine to do both in their minds. And that's what they do. So they seem to have no problems at all torturing people, committing these cruel acts and these sick acts at all. And this is all part of I don't know whether it's a satanic ideology or what on earth to call it, but it's not good in my eyes, And most people, of course, we know it's not good, which is why it's hidden from view, which is why they have to meet in secret, which is why they have to have secret ceremonies, and the whole society has to be kept secret, because if people knew what they did, they wouldn't tolerate it. So that's really some interesting thoughts today. I don't want to go on for too long. I was just trying to keep it down to half an hour, but we have gone on a little bit more. Other books I read, actually, I was reading through this one. This is William Schnoebelen. I bought this last year, and I kind of really rereading it, because when I read it, I didn't understand a lot of it. It was interesting in parts, but I find actually now, having dealt with these people for quite a long time, a lot of more of it makes sense. Again, he talks about witchcraft, and he talks about the true nature of Freemasonry, which is very, very dark. He gives a good who's who. If I can find it. He talks about the witchcraft connection. These are prominent Freemasons who are all involved in witchcraft. There's Arthur Edward Waite. He was a 33rd degree Freemason. Some of his books, he wrote about black magic. He wrote about magic, and he was deeply involved in this kind of the darker side of Freemasonry, if you like. So this kind of witchcraft he was obviously involved in. Just look at the books he wrote. There's a couple of other people. Aleister Crowley is one a lot of people would know. Again, 33rd degree Freemason, deeply involved in witchcraft. And again, in the book that I was reading, Persuasion of the Witch's Craft, he's referred to there several times. Other people, there's Annie Besson, Alice Bailey, people you might know, 33rd degree Mason. Again, check out some of the books she's written about magic. She wrote about white magic as well. Manly P. Hall, a lot of Masons love this guy. Also involved, he's also named here. And other people as well. So there's a clear link between the two, between the darker side of Freemasonry. I don't know what to call it, black magic or, witchcraft. I don't really know. Devil worshipping. People have said that as well. Video of Melanie Shaw, who's brought up in care, abused by Freemasons. And as she said, people who were devil worshipping, that's what she called them. Mark Ryan as well, when he was a child, it was documented. He said, quote, I think it was adults who worship Satan or something like that. They were devil worshipping. And that's what these people are mixed up in. And that's why these people outside my home over there are still there, because I know kind of way too much, if you like.